Welcome to Joinery Shop's How to Paint YouTube video. First thing we're going to do is to mix some two-part filler. So I'm going to just put some of this on here, a little bit of the red, and just mix it up. The reason we're doing this is to fill all the joinery nails, which will be located at every joint. Right, that's all mixed. This takes about 5 minutes to set, so we've got to be quick. And then, that's the inside, and then the outside, we want to fill all the pinholes that are holding the beading. After an hour, we're going to come back and just sand the filler down and the sash itself so that it's all smooth. Okay, that's it. Okay, the filler's dried now, so I'm just going to sand down. I'm using a 60 grit paper, a little bit over the top, but I just don't push as hard and it will soon smooth out as it wears down. What I'm doing is, as I'm sanding it, I'm just feeling it to make sure it's all nice and smooth. I'm using my hands to test it. Okay, when it comes to doing the edges, I'm going to hold it like this so that my fingers are like here, and that way it's impossible for me to actually sand the glass. What you must never ever do is sand the glass, because once it's sanded, it's scratched forever. Once that's done, I'm going to dust it down and clean it, window clean it. And the reason for that is that during installation there may have been a period, by the time you've got round to painting it, that it's rained or something. So this way it gets rid of any dirt, any fingerprint marks that might have been on there from glazing, and any dust. Because the plan is to leave a margin is to actually put some paint on the glass, leave a margin of paint on there. If there's some dirt in between the glass and the paint isn't going to stay on there very long. Now when you do paint it, make sure that you stick the margin of paint inside and outside. Treat the inside exactly the same as you would the outside, basically. Perfect. And when it comes to painting the outside, really concentrate on getting some paint inside this gap where the beading meets the actual sash, and really make sure that that's filled up with paint. It'll all help to increase the life of the unit. Okay, we're going to be working on the top sash this time. First thing I'm going to do, I've just cleaned it, is just take off any dust that may have built up inside these areas. Now I'm going to use microporous paint, Johnson's. I've shaken it already. If it comes a bit toffee-like, can do depending on the temperature. Don't be worried about adding some white spirits, even quite a bit of white spirits, and giving it a good shake. The general rule is, if it's a bit toffee and it's hurting your wrist, putting it on, it's too thick. Now with painting, it's important to paint the hardest bits first. The hardest bits being these mouldings, and the most hardest bit is the corners. So I'm getting it in the corners first, and then we'll spread it out after that. We're not worried about putting it on the glass, it's exactly what we want. We're basically putting undercoat all over, so as to undercoat the putty that's sealing the unit. So it's basically the putty sealing the unit and the paint is sealing the sealant. And if we do that correctly, we're never going to get any condensation problems. Right, that's all done now, and it's just a case of just spreading it out. Tomorrow, once it's dry, we'll be scraping it off with a Stanley scraper, taking all the paint off if we can. I've got a relatively dry brush now because I've used it and spread it out over here, and that's intentional so that I can now just mop up any big splodges of paint that may have been put on there. That way we're getting rid of all the runs. When I feel I've mopped up enough, I can then use that to spread it over the main part of the sash. That way we're not going to put too much paint on, so we're not going to be having run problems. Painting with the grain. Basically we put it on thick in big dobs in the corners, and now we're just spreading it out, what's left. If we put it on thinly, it would have taken longer, and we wouldn't have been, maybe not been able to get into all the areas that we wanted to, all the nooks and crannies. If you put it on, and if you paint the easy part first, i.e. this part, you won't be able to do this trick, because you'll just end up putting it on too thick. And it's just a case of just tidying up this, and it's done. And it's ready for tomorrow. Once it's dry, we'll just Stanley scrape it off and move on to the next stage. Okay, the paint's dried from yesterday, and I'm just going to scrape it off using a Stanley scraper. This is a new blade. It just simply comes off. What I want to do is to take all the paint off the glass. If I'm leaving 0.5 millimetre, that's okay. The way that I can control that is that if I go at an angle like this, I'm leaving about a 5mm margin. If I change the angle and go in like this, I'm leaving about a 0.5 millimetre margin. That's exactly what we want. The idea is that the unit is sealed with putty, and that's sealing the unit, and the paint is going to seal the sealant, the putty. So the putty needs to have some undercoat on it, which is why we're doing it this way. But we don't want to leave any undercoat paint on the glass, and the reason for that is undercoat paint is designed to soak into the wood. So it's like, and obviously glass isn't porous, so it doesn't work. It doesn't stay on the glass long term, whereas the gloss is designed so that it can stay on the glass. Okay, this is pretty much finished now, and that's pretty much the end of the video, because it's really just a case of just repeat paint and scrape stuff. It's boring enough as it is. So I think you've got the idea. The main point that I want to get over, and the main purpose for the video, is to emphasise the point that the double glazed unit is sealed with putty, and that's sealing the unit, and the paint is going to seal the putty. So the paint is going to seal the sealant. And the reason why we're taking all the paint off, the undercoat paint off, or maybe leaving 0.5 millimetre is okay, is because undercoat paint is designed to soak into the wood, and obviously glass isn't porous, so it doesn't last very long, whereas gloss can stay on the glass, which is why we want you to put 2 coats and leave a 2mm margin of gloss on the unit, and that way the unit is completely protected from the rain, and if no rain gets in, it's never going to condensate. And that's really the main purpose for this video. So good luck with it, and I'll see you soon. Okay, thanks.